He did all that to me, and you guys still think I'm not the victim?
Before we begin, we advise viewers to think carefully. The following content is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is the exact testimony from the federal court during the trial of Sean Diddy Combs, reported by Inner City Press. In a packed courtroom already shaken by shocking testimonies, Hollywood superstar Leonardo DiCaprio took the stand, and no one expected what he was about to reveal. Famous for blockbuster films and environmental activism, DiCaprio exposed a dark chapter in his life that most people never imagined. His voice trembling, he recalled one night when Sean Diddy Combs' invitation changed everything he thought he knew about celebrity parties. It wasn't just champagne and cameras. There was something far darker going on. What Leonardo revealed stunned not only the jury, but sparked a media frenzy, forcing even the most powerful to face the truth. What did he say? And why did he stay silent for so long? And what does this mean for the future of Diddy's trial? The silence in the courtroom was suffocating. No cameras were allowed inside, but that didn't matter. The whole world was watching. Reporters lined the courthouse steps, furiously typing on laptops, desperate to keep up with the story of the decade. Then, the unexpected moment arrived. Leonardo DiCaprio, one of the most famous actors alive, walked into the room. He wore a dark suit and looked visibly shaken, taking slow, careful steps toward the witness stand. The sound of his labored breathing echoed through the gallery. This wasn't a flash of fame, it was a testimony. The judge called for silence. DiCaprio sat down, took a deep breath, and stared directly at Sean Diddy Combs across the room. What happened next was no performance. It was a confession of the horror he witnessed at a private party he was invited to, hosted by Diddy himself. "I've been to a lot of strange parties in Hollywood," he began, his voice steady but distant. But this one was different. It was all planned. He described a secluded, secure mansion with gated entrances, where guests arrived by private jet. "I thought it would be charming. A-list celebrities mingling, that kind of thing. But what I walked into was," DiCaprio admitted he was curious. "I thought it would be charming. A-list celebrities mingling, that kind of thing. But what I walked into was completely different." According to DiCaprio, the party started like any high society gathering: champagne, security, gourmet catering, the whole deal. But as the night went on, he began to notice something was wrong. He said there were rooms that guests weren't allowed into, people who looked too young to be drinking, and the atmosphere felt seriously tense. He admitted, "I felt like I had just stepped into a place I shouldn't be." Then, he dropped a bombshell. There was a back room I wasn't allowed to see. The door was cracked open. I saw cameras, people lined up, and Diddy was there giving orders. It was no longer a party. It was something darker, something staged. The whole courtroom was stunned. Diddy sat motionless, surrounded by his team of lawyers. The judge called for a break as the whispers turned into front-page headlines. DiCaprio's testimony had shattered the veil covering Diddy's inner circle. And this was just the beginning. After the break, Leonardo DiCaprio returned to the stand. This time, he looked even more determined. What he was about to say would put him at the center of one of the most disturbing revelations in the entire case. "When I saw that back room," he paused and said, "I don't know if what I witnessed was illegal, but I knew it was wrong. The people there, some looked worried when they noticed the cameras. They weren't having a good time. They were being watched." He described a girl who couldn't have been older than 20. She was sitting on a red velvet couch, surrounded by a group of much older men. DiCaprio said, "I looked at her for a moment, and in that look, she appeared terrified." His voice choked up, and the entire courtroom hung on his every word. "That look never left me." Leo then described the security at the party as strangely aggressive. Guests weren't allowed to wander or ask questions. "You had to stay in the public area," he said. There were security guards, some with earpieces, some without. They'd be polite but firm about guiding you if you tried to explore. But it wasn't just about forbidden rooms. It was about behavior. DiCaprio said that around midnight, he started noticing people disappearing for long stretches. Celebrities he recognized suddenly vanished, only to reappear looking pale and lost. This wasn't just a party. It was like people were being processed. That's the word I kept hearing processed. The courtroom fell silent, unbelieving. Leonardo said he tried to leave early, but was told his driver was running late. When he insisted, a man in a black suit pulled him aside and calmly said, "Mr. DiCaprio, we respect you too much for you to just leave like this. Please allow us to escort you to the waiting room." They said it like it was a favor, Leo recalled, but it felt more like a warning. He sat in a glass-walled room for more than an hour with no phone signal, just soft jazz music and a bartender who never spoke. Finally, a car arrived, and he was allowed to leave. "I never told anyone," he admitted, "because I didn't think anyone would believe me. But now that I've seen what's coming, I have to speak out." The judge nodded solemnly, and Diddy's lawyers hurriedly took notes. What DiCaprio saw was not a party. It was a machine, and the people inside were its moving parts. After revealing what he saw behind that velvet curtain, DiCaprio was asked how Diddy reacted to his presence that night. "That's when things really got weird," Leo replied, "because as I was about to leave that back area, Diddy caught sight of me for just a second, and I swear, he looked at me like I knew too much." The actor described the intense gaze. It wasn't anger, not even surprise. It felt more like calculation, like he was engraving me in his mind. Leonardo admitted he only realized the weight of that moment much later. When people he knew started to distance themselves, when film projects stalled and calls went unanswered, it was like something invisible had pushed me out of those rooms. He spoke softly, but deliberately. He began to see those from the party again at galas and award shows, and they looked at me strangely, as if we were all marked. Leo said he started having nightmares about that house. He tried to erase it and make sense of it. He told himself maybe it was just one of Hollywood's weird games. But then I saw the allegations, Cassie's story, the videos, the disappearances. Around that time, he got an anonymous call. They knew I was at the party. The caller said, "You've seen more than you should have. Let it die, Leo." Then they hung up. He never told anyone, not his manager, his agent, or even his closest friends until now. The courtroom fell into stunned silence. The prosecution asked, "One last question. Why come forward now?" DiCaprio looked straight at Diddy and answered, "Because no one is too big to fall. Not even you." And just like that, one of Hollywood's biggest stars helped bring down one of the most powerful and feared men in the music industry. As the court hung on Leonardo DiCaprio's every word, the prosecution shifted focus. They asked Leo a question that made his hands visibly shake on the stand. "Has anyone ever told you what's really going on behind those closed doors?" DiCaprio nodded slowly. He said he didn't want to know, but somehow, people still told him. According to his testimony, a fellow actor whose name was kept confidential in court for safety reasons pulled him aside a few days after the party. The actor said, "You're lucky you left early. There's more going on at those parties than just drugs and alcohol. It's about control, blackmail, and a list." Leo looked visibly shaken as he recalled that moment. "He told me there was a list, a real list, detailing everyone who had ever been filmed or violated inside that mansion. It was used to keep people quiet, to make sure they followed the rules and stayed connected to Diddy." The whole courtroom was stunned. He said it was a form of favor trading not with money, but with silence. Leo revealed that after this conversation, he started noticing how many people he knew were somehow tied to Diddy. Producers, directors, influencers, even regular people who weren't in his circle suddenly backed his projects, showed up at his events, smiling like everything was normal. But the creepiest part was when Leo described the mansion's architecture. "I found out the place had been remodeled, not expanded, but divided up with hidden rooms, camera control centers, and places no one ever talked about." He referenced blueprints he'd seen shared in a group chat of industry insiders, as he called them. He didn't present the blueprints in court, but the prosecution confirmed their intention to bring in evidence that matched Leo's claims. According to DiCaprio, the real purpose of these parties wasn't socializing. It was surveillance. He said they wanted to see how far people would go when they thought no one was watching. But someone always noticed. After Leo finished describing the list and the mansion's hidden infrastructure, the judge called for a 15-minute recess. Diddy sat silently at the defense table, his teeth clenched. But for the first time, he didn't look powerful. He looked exposed. After the break, the trial resumed. The prosecutor stood and asked DiCaprio a question that immediately shifted the room's energy. Mr. DiCaprio, have you ever come into contact with anyone you believe was being held there against their will? Leo hesitated. Then he nodded. I was looking for the bathroom, he said, squinting. I went further than I planned. I opened a door and went down the stairs, and I heard crying. He described a narrow, dark hallway below the main floor with lots of storage doors. At the end of the hall was a small room with stained glass. I saw a girl inside. She was sitting on the floor, knees pulled to her chest, crying. Leo said she looked no older than 18. I cracked the door open and asked if she was okay. She looked up, terrified, and shook her head. Then a man appeared behind me, a security guard. He grabbed the door, slammed it shut, and told me I wasn't allowed down there. Leo recalled exactly what the man said. Wrong floor, Mr. DiCaprio. You didn't see anything. Go back upstairs. After that, he tried to report it, but as he told the court, no one touched it. No studio, no media, not even my own team. He described the following weeks as an emotional roller coaster after that moment. He had flashbacks. He couldn't focus on his work. He stayed away from public events for nearly a year. He said he was obsessed with finding out who that girl was, but it seemed like she didn't even exist. No records, no press, nothing. That's when Leo realized something much bigger was going on. Someone had the power to erase a person, he said seriously. And if they could do that, they could do anything. When asked if he believed Diddy knew about the basement, Leo replied, "It's not just his house. It's his design. Nothing happens down there without his approval." The jury was stunned. DiCaprio was no longer just a witness. He was becoming the voice for dozens, maybe hundreds, who never got the chance to speak. The final testimony of the day took a surprising turn when the prosecution asked DiCaprio, "Are you familiar with the term the lighthouse in connection to Diddy's events?" The room went silent. DiCaprio nodded. "It's a code," he said. Everyone who went to those parties knew what it meant. It's a term passed down by word of mouth among those invited to the deepest levels of his inner circle. He described how the term came up one night in a private conversation with a top music executive. He told me, "You've been to the lighthouse. Now you know what it means." I didn't say anything, but I knew he was right. When asked why it's called that, DiCaprio said, "Because you can see everything from inside it, and once you've seen it, you can't go back." But then came a part no one expected. Leo was asked if he ever saw Diddy interact with any high-level political figures at these events. He took a breath, then said, "Barack Obama." The courtroom gasped. He explained, "I never saw Obama at the mansion, but I saw him interact with Diddy at campaign events, fundraisers, private parties after. And at least once, I saw Diddy hand something to someone in Obama's group, an envelope. It was discreet, but not nothing." He said he didn't believe Obama was directly involved in any wrongdoing, but added, "It's hard to believe someone with that much power wouldn't hear the rumors." Leo recalled a moment at a 2016 event when someone joked, "Don't let Diddy bring the lighthouse to DC," and everyone awkwardly laughed. Obama, it said, just smiled and quickly walked away. "I don't think Obama ever went to that mansion," Leo clarified. "But I think he knew. And if he didn't want to know." Those implications are devastating, not just for Diddy, but for the networks around him. And this isn't over yet. The prosecutor asked DiCaprio why he didn't come forward sooner. The whole room leaned in as he took a deep breath. "Because I was scared," he said. "Not just for my career, but for my life. After that night in the mansion, the girl in the basement, the threats, the whispers about the lighthouse." Leo said he went home and didn't talk to anyone for days. "I couldn't sleep. I kept the lights on. I even asked security to sweep the house for bugs." Bugs. You think I'm paranoid? Let me tell you, this paranoia is a survival tool in Hollywood. You think I'm paranoid? Let me tell you this. Paranoia is a survival tool in Hollywood. He admitted that in the years that followed, he repeatedly tried to warn those in power. "I had dinner with a studio executive. I said. Something dark is happening behind the scenes. Someone's going to get hurt if we don't do something. He looked me straight in the eye and said, "Do you want to be in Revenant or not?" According to Leo, every time he tried to speak up, even subtly, he was met with silence, warnings, or veiled threats. A producer supposedly told him, "Say the wrong thing about Diddy, and you won't be insured overnight. They'll cancel your contract, and you won't even know who did it." But what pushed him to the edge was an incident in 2021. "I was on a yacht in Capri," he said. "Just a few close friends. I think someone mentioned the lighthouse again. They said, 'It's back.' He's starting again." That night, Leo excused himself and went to the edge of the yacht, thinking about jumping. I spent years pretending nothing was wrong, smiling on red carpets, accepting awards, all the while knowing that somewhere, someone was still trapped, still hurting. Because I didn't say anything, he didn't jump. But he swore he would. I decided that if the day ever comes when this man has to pay for what he's done, I will testify no matter the cost. The courtroom fell into stunned silence. Diddy shifted uncomfortably at the defense table, whispering to his lawyer, but it was already too late. Leonardo DiCaprio was no longer just a Hollywood star. He was a whistleblower, and he wasn't done yet. Then, the prosecution presented a sealed manila envelope. DiCaprio's face changed the moment he saw it. "Is that the file?" he asked quietly. His lawyer nodded. Leo explained, "This file contains messages, screenshots, notes. I've collected them over the years from people who contacted me anonymously, from insiders, from victims." He said he should never have had that file. According to his testimony, it was handed to him in 2019 by a former assistant to a powerful record label executive. She was trembling when she gave it to me. She said, "If I disappear, give this to someone who can't be silenced." I asked her, "Why me?" She said, "Because you still have a soul." The file, as described in court, included logs of parties, security records, and the names of underage individuals allegedly seen at Diddy's estate who never left publicly. Leo refused to say most of their names out loud. They deserved their privacy. Some of them were still trying to rebuild their lives. Some were still too afraid to speak out. But one person had reached out directly. Her name was redacted in court, but DiCaprio said it aloud. She said she was trafficked through entertainment industry connections and spent 3 months inside Diddy's circle before escaping, thanks to what she called the help of a guilty friend. Leo read one of her messages out loud. "If anyone found out what he did to us, they'd bury him. But they'd bury us too. I just want someone to say out loud what happened, even if no one believes it." DiCaprio then looked straight at the judge and said, "That's why I'm here." He closed his testimony by saying he believed Diddy's empire was built not just on music, but on fear, silence, and shame. He said the man may be able to dance, but it's his shadow that really moves with him. "You need to pay attention." The judge called for another short recess, but the courtroom remained frozen. No one said a word, not even the defense. When the jury returned, it was clear something in the room had shifted. Diddy looked visibly pale. His team was shuffling papers, and a lawyer leaned in, whispering angrily in his ear. Diddy slammed his hand on the table and stood up. With the judge's approval, Diddy's lawyer requested to approach the bench. A brief conversation followed. No one knew what was said. But when the lawyers returned to their seats, the prosecution stood up and asked Leonardo to give his closing statement. Leo cleared his throat. "I'm not here because I hate Sherlock Holmes. I'm here because I believe in accountability. I believe in the light." He paused. "This trial isn't about fame. It's not about Hollywood. This story is about a system that allowed one man to do whatever he wanted for decades because he was rich, well-connected, and dangerous. It's about the people he hurt, while the rest of us looked the other way." Then Leonardo looked straight at Diddy. "You once told me the only thing people cared about was the party. Well, the party's over. And now, it's time to clean up the mess." The room fell silent. Diddy muttered something under his breath. The courtroom mic caught it. He said, "This isn't over. None of this is real. They're all just actors." Leo replied softly, "So now you finally know what it feels like to be in one of your movies. Only this time, you won't get a script. The judge then adjourned the trial for the day. Reporters rushed out. The jury sat stone-faced. And Diddy, for the first time in a long while, looked powerless. As Leonardo DiCaprio left the courtroom under police escort, he passed through a crowd of spectators. Some clapped, while others just stared in disbelief. But everyone, whether they believed it or not, knew one thing. The trial had changed. And with that,